Right, this is the Sezam or Sezam. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. I've wanted one of these for a while, and recently the opportunity came up. I was able to get one. I actually just got it in the mail today. So I've just been playing with it for a little bit, and I think I've got it figured out on as far as picking and decoding it, which I'll show in a minute. But it's a pin tumbler lock with obviously 4 combination dials on it. You can use the key to dial the combination. I really didn't know anything about this lock at all. I just knew that it was cool and I wanted one, but I started trying to look up a little bit of the history of it, and I came across a video from Lockpicking Cuber that kind of went through a little bit of the history. He did disclaimer it saying, he'd not been able to corroborate what he had heard about the lock, but it was designed in Poland, and apparently at one time the Polish government passed a law that citizens had to register their keys with the local law enforcement. So that would basically give them access to their residence whenever and for whatever reason. So obviously a lot of citizens didn't like that. So that was the purpose of this lock. So even with the correct key, the lock will not open until you obviously dial the correct combination. So this fulfilled the requirements of the law with this nice little workaround feature. The only flaw, or I guess drawback, is that it requires you to manually dial the combination every time you open your door, and again every time you lock your door. Obviously you'd have to, after you lock the door, when you leave or after you get home, you'd have to jumble up the combination, or else it's basically pointless, because as long as somebody had a key, the combination is useless at that point. So honestly, who wants to do that every single time? So I imagine a lot of the times it just did not happen. So, but still a cool lock nonetheless. And that was an interesting video too. It's definitely worth a watch by Lockpicking Cuber. So I'll find it and put a link in the description or in a comment or something. He does pick it in that video with the combination known. He doesn't decode it, but I will decode it here in a little bit. But just go ahead and pick it real quick with the combination already dialed. So it's just a 5-pin lock. These are standard, basically standard pins. They do act like T-pins though, because after you get them all at the shear line, you have to go back and forth and tap every one of them several times to get it across the shear line. So it's not really tapered. Setting pins doesn't necessarily drop others. They just need several taps to get across the shear line. So like now, basically everything is at the shear line. Just have to go back and forth and just keep tapping until the lock opens. And to change the combination on this, you can do it when it's picked or with the key. You just have to have the top of the keyway pointed at the number 6 position on this top right. dial. So these did come with a change key. It's a thinner shaft with a hook on. I'm not really sure what the hook was for. You can't use the key because you can't push that in, obviously. So yeah, I don't know what the hook was for on the change key, because you can just use a screwdriver or anything that will fit in there. You just push it in and turn, pop it back out, push in, turn. And then when you lock it back up, now that is the new combination. So the old combination will not work now. All right, so I'm going to go show my wife or one of my kids how to do this, to change the combination, so they can change it for me, and then I will come back and decode it. All right, so got the combination reset. Obviously it's not zeros. I've not seen anybody decode this. I'm sure that there's videos out there of people doing it, but I have not seen them. I honestly didn't look for them, so I'm sure that there are videos out there, but I just wanted to try to figure it out. So I'm gonna try to pick this stack and hopefully get a false set. So there's 3, 4, 5, 2, and 1. Now it's just going to be going through, tapping everything a couple times. All right, so there was a little bit of movement there. So now I'm going to pick a dial and just turn it until I get a little bit more plug movement, like right there. Now I'm going to go to the next one. So got a little bit more. That actually went back a little bit. There, I got a little bit more. Okay, and then at this point, I think that I'm going to try to pay attention to the false gates. It seems like these have false gates. So I'm just going to pick this first one and turn it until I get back into the false set. There's a lot more play in that one. Well, there's quite a bit of play in that one now too. Let's see, that one's stiff. Quite a bit of play in that one and that one. I'm going to leave those two alone. I'm going to leave that one alone as well. But very little movement on this one, so I'm going to release tension a little bit, turn this one until I get back in a false set. So it's moving a little bit more, but not near as much as like that one is. So I'm going to turn it again. Still not. And there we go. So I kind of got lucky with these. But that's all it is. You get into the false set, and then you turn one to get a little bit deeper false set, and then or at least that's the way that I do it. You could probably just start decoding it from that first one, but I usually turn one to get a little bit deeper false set, and then start checking the gates and decoding it that way. So honestly, fairly easy lock to pick, easy lock to decode. If for some reason you don't get this false set on this main stack, then it's probably not in a false gate. Like one of these are not in a false gate. So I don't know if you saw, but like when I would turn one of these, the tensioner would actually go back. Like it would get more locked up, counter rotate. So I think that means it's in between gates. So if all of them are that way, you may not get any rotation on this when you pick it. So if you run into that, then I mean, what I would do is just turn each of them one position and then pick it again. I'd say that very likely that you're going to get into a position where you will get that initial false set. All right, so it was 4130. So I'm going to change the combination back, maybe. All right. I'm going to look and see what it's going to take to gut this thing. Really don't want to mess it up or lose anything. I've never gutted it. I've never seen anybody gut this thing on video, so I have no idea what I'm getting into. But there's no one here right now to talk me out of doing it. So I don't know. We'll see what this looks like. See how I feel about it. You see that nylon sleeve moving? But for some reason, it needs to be flexible and give way for those dials. I think that one time there was maybe some kind of a screw or retaining pin in there. I'm guessing. I really don't know. All right, well, let me see. Start pulling this apart and see how maybe this is going to go. That pin does have a taper on the bottom of it. Which could explain all the taps that it needed. But the main stack I'm not really too worried about. It's these dials, but maybe you don't access them from this housing. Maybe, I'm not really sure. To be quite honest, I really don't know. Ah, okay, now I'm getting into some ball bearing detents. Got my finger over the rest of them. Except my finger slipped off of that one. And back by my thumb, you can see that moving. Not really sure what that is. I'm not really sure how much further I'm going to go with this either. All right, let's slip that housing back on there before I lose anything. I'm not going to turn that. I'm not going to gut this any further because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to mess this thing up. But I was curious to see what pins were in there. I think this is just a 3D printed cap that goes on the back. So I couldn't tell which way some of these came out. This one looks like it's rounded right there. The rest of them look like they're rounded on the bottom for that key. Pins do look a little tapered at the bottom. I was expecting them to look more like a T-pin. I don't know, maybe it's got a flat top plug on it or something, but they definitely went to the shear line, and then you had to tap every one of them at least 4 times to get it to set. But anyway, that's how I figured out how to do that. I don't know if there's another way, or like I said before, if you don't get that initial turn, initial false set, then I would turn at least one of these one position, or just turn them all one position, and then try to pick it again. All right, that is the Sezam. I think it's either Sezam or Sezam, but not 100% sure how to pronounce that. All right,